Good evening, and welcome to tonight's event, Tap My Back, How Your Organization Should Deal with the New Normal. My name is Gabriela Opaz, and I'll be your hostess tonight. Tonight, we have an amazing program for you. We're going to do everything we can not only to bring a smile to your face, but to help you and your organization improve employee engagement, happiness, communication, and cooperation. Tonight's program is both various and complex, but the hope is by the end that you're going to feel connected and more engaged. So how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to kick off with an amazing presentation from our CEO about how Tap My Back, its features and concepts can improve your employee engagement. We'll then lead into testimonials from both clients and partners alike from around the world and how Tap My Back has helped their businesses improve their engagement and employee performance. We'll then lead into the results from the investment program, Portugal 2020. And we also have an amazing roundtable from experts from psychology, business, and coaching, and how you can help your workers who are based around the world, working remotely, to feel more engaged and connected. We'll then end with an amazing keynote speech from Michael Kerr, coming to us from Canada, on how humor in business can increase your employee engagement. We're very excited to have you here tonight, and we hope you stay with us. Please don't hesitate to ask questions at any time. We'll answer your questions both online and off. Additionally, we have many surprises throughout the program, so stay with us. We're excited to have you here. For now, we're going to present our first speaker, Vitor Soares, the CEO of Tap My Back. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. I'm here today from our office in Lisbon, something still quite rare these days, as you know. The majority of Tap My Back's team is watching this event from home, as probably you are too. With this pandemic, we decided to be remote first, but I really hope that in the future events we can mingle again, probably with a hybrid concept. But if the last year and a half has taught us something, is that we can always adapt to new situations. And it's about it that I want to talk in this presentation, adaptation and evolution, as an individual and as a part of the team as well. But before we dive into all the processes of change we are passing through, let's give a step back. Please think for a moment about what your dream job was before you started working. And no, I didn't mean what was your dream job as a child. And yes, I want to be a firefighter too. So we grow up, and eventually some of us can also become a firefighter, but the majority starts dreaming in more realistic and less risky professions. And in any case, we understood that for making a living, we need money. And if you want to live in a fancy style, travel a lot, or pay for the best college of our children, we need a lot of money. But does a good salary really compensate for all the other variables? And even if you are in the profession or industry you love, it doesn't matter which organization you work for? Certainly not. And there are several factors that can influence your happiness or your willingness to remain in the company or looking for another one where you can feel better. But what does it mean to feel better in company A, B, or C? So, long before the pandemic, several studies already identified key factors for employee disengagement and turnover. And I don't know what the exit interviews data of your company say, but you can probably relate these statistics with cases from colleagues you know and maybe yourself in the past. Even if we consider that the minority of these employees has an exaggerated and victimizing perception, probably management teams could improve these statistics a lot if they have a clear vision to implement an effective feedback culture. We test to start on top. Now, look also at these statistics from May 2020, more than 1 year ago. Alongside the old problems of employee recognition and communication, the pandemic brought additional stress for almost everybody, either because of remote work management, lockdown, or a spike in working hours. And as you can see by this example of delivery workers, the problems are not just the challenges of remote work or unemployment. Not even Apple and high-skilled professionals transition to a new era of labor relations and a lifestyle without turmoil. Is it really inevitable that Apple and other big companies will risk losing some of their brains to the competitors because of new remote or hybrid working policies? Stay with us in this online event, and other speakers will share more updated data and insights about all the effects of the pandemic on employees and employers. Now, let me show you how our platform can help you with all the mentioned challenges. Please bear in mind that this is a presentation from a browser, but our platform also works in Microsoft Teams, Slack, and other platforms. So it all starts with recognition, so simple. You just give a tab to someone that did a job well done, for instance, in this case at work, or to several people, and all the colleagues that you have, all the other teams can see that recognition going live. And actually, it's so simple to provide recognition. You just have to select the person or the people or teams that did a very good job. You select the badge from your account that you have configured, and then you give some context with a comment, and you can also add a GIF, like in this example. Then you can also provide feedback through Tap My Back. Private feedback in this case. You can also request or give feedback. In this case, you can see that we have already some templates in the account that come with Tap My Back or that you can create your own. And for instance, you can do a regular check-in, maybe from you, the manager, with your team. And you can also not only use our templates, but create your own by starting one from scratch or editing, like you can see here, a feedback request. You just have to select who are the team or the people or person that should answer your feedback request. You edit the questions, also the type of answer, and it can be, as you see, recurring, like a monthly check-in, and you can also set deadlines to collect that feedback. All the feedback that you receive, you, of course, also have access to it. And in this case, for instance, besides regular check-ins, you can also have real-time feedback about a situation that happened, and someone in your team or organization just provide you some feedback based on facts and with context. Of course, if you are an admin, you can also see the feedback that is going inside your own organization or team if you configure that way. Then let's jump to the Pulse surveys. We already have a lot of templates that you can also use, like the mood one, where people can answer based on emojis how they are feeling today. The employee net promoter score, where you can track the retention level or ability of your company, or more simple or traditional surveys like the work from home survey, for instance, or as also you can create your own Pulse survey from scratch. But let's take this example of the work from home survey. You can as well edit all the questions, the type of answer, and even set some type of weight to the questions where you allow, for instance, scale answers like you are seeing here. This way, from edition of edition in this survey, you will see the trend of the global score of the survey as well. So it can be recurrent, as you see, and you can also set deadlines and allow open or anonymous answers in the survey. Of course, all this data will then be accessible for you as an admin to see, for instance, in this case, the mood survey results. You can track the overall mood of the company based, in some communication or some changes that happen in the company. You can track how the mood of the company react to that. And if people are answering in an open way, you can also, feel or see if someone is not feeling good in the past week, and you can act right away to help the person. And the eNPS is another example of Pulse Analytics that you can see in your account, in your Tap My Back account. And as I said before, the eNPS can help you understand how well are you doing as a company or as a team about retention. Moving on, let's go to more broad analytics. You can also see the general engagement of the account, like if the employees or team members, users are using and engage with the platform or not. You can also have a global vision of the service that you have active in your account. And going in the recognition part, you can see who are the person or the people receiving more recognition in a certain period of time. And then you will have, for instance, if you want some rewards to that person, like gift cards, days off, etc. And in the same way, you can go to the feedback menu in the analytics and see if feedback is being generated inside teams and who is providing the feedback. And also, you can also set up skills for your teams, different skills for different teams. So you can also track the feedback based on skills for different people and different teams. And you may understand if you lack some kind of skills in your company, or if someone is really good in a specific skill and maybe should deserve a promotion or changing job inside your own organization. All this data is accessible also through an API, and you can also export the data to a CSV file if you want to use the data in a different way. So to finish this short demo, please keep in mind that the platform is highly customizable, even the colors and the logo, and even be adapted for a very long list of use cases. And I just want to reinforce as well that the experience that you saw in this video can also be achieved while using Microsoft Teams or Slack, among other integrations, for instance, our partners also TalkDesk. And of course, this way, end users don't need to adopt a new software or install another app. They can use the normal environment that they already have, like Microsoft Teams or Slack, to use directly Tap My Back. Remember that motivation doesn't have to be so complex. And we are all social animals that love to be applauded. And we want the feedback on the exact time we deliver, not 1 year after in the annual performance review, when managers don't really remember that great project or that day when we helped other colleagues with a short deadline. I will end my presentation with this Glassdoor study, which makes perfect sense to me. Using Glassdoor's employer ratings as a variable, they conclude that there is a direct correlation between employees' happiness and customer satisfaction. Let's all keep this saying as part of our daily routine. Make employees happy, so customers will be happy too. Now is the time to make employees feel recognized and listened to. Tap My Back is here to help you improve employees' motivation and engagement, and at the same time, giving valuable insights to managers and leaders. Feel free to get in touch with us to schedule a call about your specific use case and needs, or if you want, you can also start a free trial in our platform. Now let's move on, as I can't wait to hear our experts roundtable and the passionate speaker, Michael Kerr. I hope to share it with you soon.
Thank you, Vitor. We appreciate the feedback and the concepts and features you presented with us tonight. I think what's important to note is that it's not just the millennials and the youth who need feedback, it's all of us. We all struggle to know, not only at business, at home and elsewhere, how we're doing. Are we communicating effectively? Are we getting the job done? Are we achieving the objectives that we've set out to do? And the only way we can do this is as a community. But it's not all serious. As we've all experienced on Zoom, none of us had planned for the pandemic, and none of us had planned to shift our entire lives online. In this next video, I would like to present some of the humorous side of how we all are working both remotely and online.
Hey, Paul. Thanks for being here on time. Paul? Hey, Paul, can you hear me?
I can't hear you.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Hey, guys.
Hey, Tyler.
Sorry I'm late. Having a hard time connecting.
1 second. Paul's having a sound issue.
I can't hear you.
Try adjusting your output settings.
Can you hear me?
It's the gear icon.
Tyler, are you on hotel Wi-Fi?
Yeah, why?
Never mind, I got it. I just had to change a few settings.
Great, great. Maybe we can get started then. Oh, great.
I think your mic is picking up your speakers.
My mic?
Do you have headphones?
You want me to put them on?
No, I want you to smell them. No, I want you to put them on. Hey, Beth.
Hey everyone. Sorry I'm late. I had to download a new version of the platform.
You should plan extra time for the updates. There's pretty much one every time.
Sounds like someone just joined.
Hey guys, it's John. I had to call in. I'm stuck in traffic. Have I missed anything yet?
No, it would have been nice for you to join the rest of us, but we'll see you when you get home. All right, while everyone is here, finally, Tyler, do you have that financial report?
Well, it's been the last few weeks updating our books, and I got some great news for you. Schedule from this point last year. We had a great Q1.
We lost Tyler, I think.
Am I frozen?
Hey, Trip, I think we lost Tyler.
Yeah, I know, we lost Tyler.
Hey guys, it sounded like Tyler was cutting out.
We know, John. All right, while we wait on Tyler, why don't we go over all of the reports from... Beth, are you with us?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, everyone, I know some of you have to leave soon, but I just wanted to go over a couple of the queries before. Okay, excuse me. My wife's out of town this week. Daddy's, I'm so sorry. Okay, you just spilt grape juice on the carpet. Daddy is in a meeting. Tyler, can you go over the numbers one more time, please?
I thought Beth had an adjustment. Hey, Beth.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys, that's my iTunes.
Hey guys, hang on. I'm gonna join in. Hey, what platform are you guys on? Skype? FaceTime?
It's in the invite.
Oh, never mind. I see it. It's right there in the invite.
Okay, now I can see everybody.
Let's reschedule and let's just do a regular old conference call, okay? Paul, can you have David send out the 9-digit passcode?
I heard you.
Yeah, he's been here the whole time.
All right, everybody. I'll see you later.
Does this seem familiar to you? I know it does for me. How many times have we been frozen? That we can't find the right laptop, that we can't plug in on time, that it's almost impossible to communicate over the interference. Zoom calls or any calls online can feel frustrating. However, this is our new life, and maybe there are ways to improve it. And Tap My Back has many ways to help you and your organization improve that communication. So how are we going to learn about that? We're going to listen to some testimonials from both clients and partners around the world to find out how Tap My Back has improved their business communication, retention, and employee engagement.
Hi, I'm Ricardo Pereira, co-founder and partner of ComeOn. And I would like to share that when we started to grow quite fast, our team, we realized that we were starting to lack something that was, since the beginning, was one of our biggest assets, that is our culture and the proximity between our people. So we have to tackle it, and we have to address it quite fast, and we decided to invest in Tap My Back. And with Tap My Back, we no longer have that issues of people be able to be cheerleading each other and appraise, and also be aware of who is doing what. And also, we as managers and leaders, we're able to be aware of what's the employee net promoter score, and to have a tool to address the feedback and to be able to get to know what kind of soft skills we need to improve, what kind of soft skills are more recognized between our team, and how they relate between each other. So I don't even imagine how ComeOn could work without Tap My Back. Thank you.
Olá, meu nome é Fernanda, sou diretora administrativa da Archer, aqui no Brasil, e o Tap My Back vem nos ajudado a manter uma conexão entre os nossos colaboradores nesse momento em que todo mundo está trabalhando como home office. Né? Com ele a gente conseguiu substituir aquele momento de confraternização literalmente com tapinha nas costas, o aperto de mão, o agradecimento ao vivo pela interação, pela ajuda entre as equipes. Além disso, os feedbacks estruturados também começaram a fazer parte da realidade do dia a dia, tanto dos gestores pedindo aos colaboradores e vice-versa. Isso tem nos ajudado a aprimorar as relações y también as capacidades dentro del trabajo.
Hola, soy Fernanda, Talent Manager de Tabana Team. Les quería contar que Tap My Back es un partner estratégico para construir una cultura de desarrollo continuo de personas. Esta herramienta nos ha permitido permear en el equipo el hábito de reconocernos de manera continua e instantánea entre todos, así como también promover y vivir nuestros valores de una manera más orgánica. Nos ha ayudado a crear y anclar el hábito de dar y recibir feedback de una manera fácil y rápida. Nos encanta trabajar con Tap My Back.
We at Freshworks for Startups love working with companies which resonate with the Freshworks goal of building customer and employee-centric businesses. Tap My Back is one such company, which is part of our investor partner, Build Up Labs. We are more than happy to be a part of their growth story, since they are on a mission to build happier and smarter teams.
Hello, everybody, and I'm speaking today from the UK. We're baking in 30-degree heat, which will be cold for most. And just like to say about Tap My Back and how we've used it at Farm and Stable. It was recommended to us by another company, and every tap is related to our values in our company. So we tap each other on based on our culture and our values. We've worked remotely from many branches for a number of years, and while we used to pick an employee of the month by the managers, the senior managers in the company, we've now changed it so it's peer accountability. So peers will tap another colleague, and the one with the most taps or retaps, the most participation, at the end of the month will win a prize to roughly the value of £50 sterling. And this has been great for getting more and more engagement, because if you don't take part, then you don't have a chance of winning. And as that participation has gone up, some people win it multiple times in a year, and it really shows what a good employee is to the rest of the team, and elevates the whole team. I just highly recommend Tap My Back. It's amazing for getting participation of the whole team, the whole company, focusing on your values and improving your culture. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Walla Oracat. I'm joining live here from San Francisco, California. I manage the App Connect marketplace at TalkDesk. And for those of you who don't know TalkDesk, our mission is to provide a better way for organizations to unlock the potential of great customer experience. Our App Connect marketplace is a program that offers extensibility to our TalkDesk CX Cloud platform, and it has over 40 industry-leading apps and solutions such as Tap My Back. So we try to find like-minded partners who are customer-obsessed. And our partnership with Tap My Back provides our customers with a solution that improves employee engagement, workforce performance, and team motivation. We're so proud to have such a great partner in our ecosystem, and I want to thank Vitor and the whole team for allowing us to participate in this event. Thank you.
So what have we learned? We've learned that participation is incredibly important. It's not easy to get participation when we have people scattered everywhere, virtually, in their homes or offices, and not together. It's even hard to have us all speak coherently when we're in the same room. So it's amazing to know that these companies are actively using, supporting, and seeing amazing success from Tap My Back's application. So what's next? Well, we're going to learn from the co-founder, Rui Gouveia, what are the results of Tap My Back. Again, should you have any questions throughout this program, never hesitate to put them in the chat box. We'll answer them as soon as we can.
Hi, I'm Rui, one of the founders of Tap My Back, and I'm here to present some key results we've achieved with the support from Lisboa 2020 operational program. Our initial focus for the product was how can we improve employee recognition and feedback at every type of organization. And this need actually came from problems that we were facing in our own group of companies. The problems were mostly related to the different expectations that millennials had regarding interactions and feedback within the company, with their managers and their peers. Let's not forget that this generation grew up with social media and the instant feedback that it provides. But real-time feedback was not present when they joined the company. That is a culture gap waiting to be solved. And lack of recognition and feedback is a real problem that managers have to deal on a daily basis because it has a real impact on talent retention and development. Because 64% of employees that quit their jobs said they didn't felt recognized by the work. And since our team had been developing digital platforms for dozens of years, we thought maybe we can try to solve this problem. Maybe we can try to build an app for that. So we decided to work on a prototype of how could this issue be addressed in an easy-to-use solution for leaders and their teams. We focused on enabling real-time feedback loops and the user experience that resembled a social networking platform to make adoption of this new platform as easier as possible to accomplish within the company. And being a software as a service platform, TapMyBack was instantly available all over the world for teams to use. From the Americas to New Zealand, we worked together with different companies to roll out this behavior change within their organizations across different industries and cultures. Even before applying for any European fundings, we were able to get excellent feedback from companies and end users. But we knew that we had to continue to evolve. There was still a lot to be done on employee engagement. We had a roadmap of features, but then, well, COVID hit and everything changed. Most of our clients went to work from home. That changed the dynamics within the companies and created new problems also needing to be solved. We actually understood that TapMyBack could be more helpful than ever in this remote work context. So we decided to listen to the problems that our clients were experiencing and came up with a new focus. We focused on simplicity. We had to make the experience as frictionless as possible. We worked on integrations because people were using Microsoft Teams or Slack more than ever, and we needed to better integrate TapMyBack with those platforms, and also data analytics to help managers act quicker in an informed way based on the feedback from their employees. These were the key features we focused on in the last year and a half. One of the biggest issues team managers were struggling was, how can I feel the pulse of my team members now that we are not together in the same place? So we decided to develop pulse surveys. Those are really short surveys focused on specific topics that allowed managers to sense their team's morale on issues like well-being, productivity, burnout levels, etc. Integrating with Microsoft Teams, Slack, or Gmail made the experience as seamless as possible because users can answer pulse surveys directly in those platforms without the need to open TapMyBack. Pulse surveys also generate a lot of data points. So we created new dashboards to help managers extract insights from the surveys in a clear and actionable way. We saw an annual growth since 2020 compared to the average of previous years, both in terms of public recognition within the organizations and private feedback between managers and team members. As pulse surveys were released more recently, we cannot compare it with the previous period. But 3,000 surveys launched by our customers, which generated much more response from the end users, is quite an impressive mark for a new feature in our platform. Feedback from our customers and users has always been great. We managed to achieve consistent 4.5 ratings in different software comparing platforms, and mostly the reviews allow us to see the real-world examples of the impact that we are having improving people's lives, and also give us great tips on how to continue to improve TapMyBack. Let me build a bridge between the latest feedback we have been receiving from our customers and the situation that we are still facing with the pandemic. We should take advantage of turbulent times to implement changes that make our organizations even better. than they were before the pandemic. So don't be shy. Go to our website, book a call with us. We are happy to discuss with you from our experience what can result better for your specific needs, free of charge, of course. And I hope to see you soon, even if remotely, and thank you.
Rui, thank you for a great presentation. I think it's important to highlight that feedback is always important. And though Rui stated that Tap My Back has received a 4.5 rating consistently, the times that they may not have, they consistently and accurately tried to implement any feedback that was required to not only improve the customer experience, but to improve their app. Well done. Now, I would like to introduce Jorge Borga. He is the executive board member at the Portugal's national agency. He wants to come to us today, by my side, in presence, to chat about innovation and the way we need to approach innovation from a very open and forward-thinking standpoint. Due to the pandemic and very troubling times, it's easy to use innovation to go backwards. Instead, his focus is on the future.
Thank you, Gabriela. Hi all, thank you for being here and thank you very much for the invitation. I would like to share with you food for thought. We're living very disruptive times. For the last 10 years, I've been supporting startups and seeing the emergence of a lot of disruptive technologies. But never like today or the last 2 years, I've seen those technologies make the difference on our society. And we're living those times. I believe that in 20 years' time, 30 years' time, people will look back and ask us, where were you on those years? What did you do? What did you make out of your teams? How did you react to this change? That is today. Whatever we're trying to do and move today, we will probably regret more the things that we don't try than the things that we tried and didn't went right. So I urge you all to look at the future and think that we're trying to develop things or recover our economy, not by looking backwards and looking into what we know, but giving a step further, moving collaboratively with the ecosystem and with the community and finding solutions for the problems we see that are coming upon us and haven't arrived. Disruption always has been a source of innovation in society. If we look backwards, innovation didn't happen and the growth of economy didn't happen in a linear form. It happened in ups and downs, in bumps. So we need to look at this opportunity as a great changer in the way our society works and as a great opportunity to move forward with technology. Applications and software such as Tap My Back look into what's more important to our society and to our startups and technological companies. They look into our brains, into our hearts, and into the move of our teams. We need to look after them. This is troubled time, and they need our help, and they need our attention. So it's a pleasure for the National Agency for Innovation to support projects such as Tap My Back, to look at these projects in Portugal and to look in many other places in Europe as projects will open the economy of the future, and we will guarantee that we are all included in that future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, João. Yes. And thank you very much for allowing me to butcher your name. Forgive me.
No problem.
That was an amazing speech, and I couldn't agree with you more. And it's a very challenging time to try and bring people into the future, especially when there's so many startups out there needing support. So from now on, we're going to be leading into a new conversation about how we can support our remote workers around the world. In order to do that, I'm going to introduce you to Stuart Noakes. Stuart is coming to us from the UK. He's not only extraordinarily charismatic, having met him virtually myself, but he's also a passionate entrepreneur and someone who's going to lead us in the conversation today with experts from around the world, not only in psychology and education, but business and consulting. Throughout this roundtable, I encourage you to send us all the questions that you have on your mind so that we can answer them clearly and concisely, not only in the moment, but afterwards as well. Stuart, I'm passing it on to you.
of such amazing people. So looking forward to this discussion today. So first, I wonder if I might introduce Sylvia, or ask you, Sylvia, to introduce yourself. Sorry, it's great to have you here from Toulouse. Who are you, and what is your experience?
Hi all, my name is Silvia Del Russo. I'm an associate professor at Toulouse Business School, and that's where I teach human resource management and where I conduct research in the field of organizational behavior, what is that keeps people motivated at work. And in particular, I conduct research on feedback, so I hope we have the chance to talk about this maybe later. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. Amazing to have you here. And Savita, where are you calling in from today? And tell us a bit about your experience, please.
Greetings from India. I head HR for Europe and UK for Freshworks. Very excited to be here with such a great panel, and especially the video, completely loved it. I've been 22 years in the corporate world, started my career in sales and operations, paved my way into human resources in varied facets of HR, and really excited to be part of this discussion. Thank you for having me here.
Amazing. And I have to say, I did giggle at the Zoom video myself. I thought it was quite special. And Carla, wonderful to have you here as well. Please tell everybody about your experience. I think you might be on mute there.
Me, Stuart, sorry, the sound wasn't clear. My experience, my personal experience.
No, not you, Sharp.
Not me, okay, thank you. Beautiful. We started as a good point, sorry.
It was me, it was me, João. I'm sorry, it was, that thing that always happens that we just saw in the video. I was muted and I forgot. So, yeah.
It's perfect, it's perfect.
So my name is Carla. First of all, thank you so much for the invitation to be here. I'm very excited to be a part of this panel and to share with you my experience as a psychologist. I do mainly clinics, so I do focus a lot on the individual, but I do work very closely to organizations and all that's going on at the moment right now. So yeah, thank you so much for this invitation and for allowing me to bring this insight.
Fantastic. Great to have you here, Carla. So my first question for the panel today is pretty broad, and obviously it's open to your own experiences on this, but really I wonder if you can help share with the people watching what you feel is the main difference between remote work and working from home. And I direct this first of all to Sylvia, if I may.
Sure. I would probably make a specification regarding remote, which I most often tend to refer to as smart. So smart work versus working from home or from remote. So the difference, in fact, is not only identifying where the work is carried out, but also its structure. So from home versus remotely, which could identify any other place, right, that people choose, identifies simply that you are not in the organizational premises and you can perhaps choose where to work. In the exception that I was suggesting of smart work, we actually refer to a different organization of the work, which means that it's a job more enriched and it requires people to have greater responsibilities, and it essentially relies on two factors. One is working by goals, not by tasks, not by little task that you do every day, but by goals, so that in principle you can actually work from anywhere because you are only then accountable for the final outputs within a certain deadline. And the other element that is essential is the trust, right? So I think that there has been a lot of confusion because in the last year, many organizations and many people have been forced, to implement certain types of practices that they weren't used to, and they just tried to mimic what they were doing in the office at home. It doesn't really work well, right? And perhaps the other panelists will also speak about the experiences that employees, individuals have when they are working from home without the full responsibilities over a certain piece of work, when things are too molecular, for example, and too parceled out. So you lose sight of the broader process. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sylvia. I think it's a very interesting concept, the output versus hours type of mentality. Thank you for that insight. I wonder, Savita, do you have a comment on this as well?
Yes, I mean, for me, if I, jog my memory lane back to January, February last year, when the entire work from home situation started because of the pandemic, it was more work from home because, there were lockdowns, people couldn't move out of their homes, there were restrictions on travel. So that pretty much had all our workforce working from home. As summer started, back last year in June, July, things started opening up a bit, and people wanted to work remotely from different locations. Some people wanted to go back to India, a few others wanted to go to Portugal or different locations. So, we as a company, one of the cornerstones of Freshworks is trust by default. And we really gave that liberty of working from anywhere. For me, that is remote work, where I'm not confining an individual to a particular city or a country, but giving the freedom and flexibility to be where he or she wants, but still being very output driven, still being an ambassador of our culture, right? So that really worked out well. Of course, there is tax implications of the same, where we had to find out, what does it mean if somebody is contracted in Germany, but sitting in Portugal and working? So we did take those into account, and we did come up with a 180-day principle where folks could work out of anywhere as long as they were results oriented and as long as they were spearheading our culture. I hope that answered your question, Stuart.
Amazing, Savita. And this concept of trust has come up twice already, and it sort of speaks to culture a lot, really. And I wonder, Carla, if you can give us some insights here in how the culture for remote work is so very different, and how things like trust and empathy can really come together.
Yes, exactly. I think that's really the base of everything, trust, commitment, and everything else just follows. And, we still have, and I think we were obliged to lose it, but we still have, we are still very attached to that idea that if you are home, you're resting, you're not doing anything. You're just, watching TV, and maybe you have like a Zoom conference on. And actually, that is not true. But if we don't trust our people, if we don't give them that message, if we don't commit ourselves, how can we ask that from them? So I think it all begins there. It all begins with, another buzzword I know, empathy. We need to put ourselves in other people's roles, and the culture needs to come, from the top. We cannot expect from the people that aren't in charge of that to lead before. They need to know where to follow. They need to feel like they are a part of something. So I think that is the foundation. Yeah.
I think it's very interesting, isn't it? Trust when you can't see anything, I think, is sometimes referred to as faith, which is a very interesting concept. Do you have faith in your employees? And so I guess on this topic of culture, Sylvia, if I could turn to you, and empathy or empathia, is it possible to achieve this and sustain this inside an organization that's so remote?
Well, I say it's essential. Then it's difficult to do it, right? But that's why we need to try even more than when we are continuing working, perhaps after this pandemic will be over, in traditional in-presence format. It is essential because, not only the work needs to be carried out, and we know that performance would suffer, but because of the well-being of individuals, right? And we have three basic needs that need fulfillment. Sorry for the double word, but they really have to be fulfilled in order to give well-being and full flourishing to individuals. And these three basic needs are belonging. So we need to feel part of something. And I guess this is really an underlying theme when we speak about trust. We need to feel autonomous, and we need to feel competent in what we do. So in a way or another, we need to fuel this empathy, even if remotely working or smart working or working from home, the way you choose, okay? We really need to keep these three things in mind and make time for our interactions to actually satisfy and fulfill those needs, which of course becomes maybe less informal than we started to do before, right? Because then in the workplace, you meet somebody in the corridor, you stop by drinking a coffee together, and many of these connections with people develop more naturally. if we don't make time and we create those occasions on purpose online, well, it can be slower, to say the least, no? To develop in that sense.
Thank
Because
you, Sylvia.
connections stay a bit more superficial.
This mental well-being topic that you bring up here, I wonder, before I come back to Savita for a question on culture, Carla, I wonder, could you give us some insights about mental health and mental well-being during this remote time?
Yes, yes, yes. So mental health has taken a big toll, which, you know, on the one hand is terrible, but on the other hand, it's not that bad because it has pushed the conversation, it has brought the subject to the table, and it's no longer a taboo. So I think that is actually a very positive thing, that we are all, you know, looking at each other as a complete person. So mental health is a part of our health as well, and we need to be healthy as a whole person to be able to perform in every stage of our life, not only in our personal life but also in our work, because our emotions, our mental health, our emotional health affects the way that we think and affects the way that we perform in our, you know, everyday life, also in our work life. So taking care of ourselves, making sure that, you know, we don't lose ourselves, we don't lose who we are, we don't lose our purpose, our goals, is essential for us to keep on going. So I think we can, you know, divide this into two things. We need to take care of ourselves as individuals, and we need to take care of ourselves as individuals in a society, in a team, in a family, in a greater, I don't know, landscape of other me's, if I may say so. So I think this is a very important topic, and it has been very difficult to tackle, I think, because we tend to leave ourselves to the back end of our task list, because we feel guilty that maybe we are not working so many hours as we should, because we're also taking care of the kids. We also had to break for lunch. We also had to do this or that or that. And it's very easy to leave ourselves to the back end. And this will take a toll in medium to long term. And we have seen that. We have seen the increase of cases of burnout. We have seen the increase of cases of anxiety and severe anxiety and depression-like symptoms that suddenly everyone is having or experiencing. And I think it's quite concerning. So taking care of ourselves, and companies being aware of this and actually opening the lines of communication, listening. And I cannot stress this enough, listen to your people. They will tell you what is wrong. They will tell you what they need. Again, trust them and, you know, communicate, and we can get there.
This is such a powerful topic. I think we could talk about it for a whole panel and a half all by itself. But Savita, do you have any comments on culture before we move to Joao for the first of the top tips for remote working?
How I see culture, Stuart, is I really would not define culture for a remote working team and a team in a physical environment very differently. Rather, I would say, let's take a step back and say, what is culture, and you know, how can that culture percolate success in different working environments? So for me, culture is a bedrock of values and behaviors that echoes that values. So if you ask me at Freshworks, what we did is happy work environment is our core culture. Trust by default is our core culture. Speak up is our core culture. So anything and everything that we did spoke to our core culture, even during the turbulent times. So we looked at, you know, how can we keep our employees happy and connected? That could be, you know, from a range of activities, from yoga to meditation to, you know, speaking up vulnerably about the challenges that people are facing. You know, AMAs, Ask Me Anything with leaders. So that facet of what does an employee need to feel connected? Remember, we are physically distant, but we're not socially, you know, distant. We can still be socially connected. And that means that really going below the, you know, iceberg and connecting with the employee at the core. I would also say that, you know, one of the other aspects that can enable organizations to be successful at remote work is ensuring that their managers and leaders have the right skill sets to be successful, which means empathy with heartfelt listening, working asynchronously. How do you have meeting-free days and really, try and do work in a very asynchronous way? How can you celebrate rewards and recognitions? How do you show authenticity in everything that you do? So these, the most human values become more important as, you don't see the folks day in, day out. I would also say that it's important to take feedback, just like Tap My Back, is an instrument to take the voice of the employee. We have, different platforms where we're, seeking continual employee feedback on what we're doing well and what we should improve on. What we did well is employee connection and communication. But as Carla, and Sylvia both rightly pointed out, self-discipline is so challenging, right? There is a feeling of guilt that you got to be on that email and respond to that email at the tick of that minute, right? So we are now communicating to our employees on the essence of slowing down, but still being very resourceful. So it's been a learning journey, especially for me when I joined the company exactly at the tick of the pandemic hour.
Amazing insights. Thank you. And I think one of the areas I would reflect before I turn to Joao is just how few checks and balances there are when you're in a remote team. So if you see a colleague in an office environment crying at the desk because they're so upset, you would go over and you would help. And that's a kind of check and balance. But in a remote team, they may be crying at that desk without anybody seeing them at all, right? And then they look fresh and ready for the next thing when you come back. But I wonder, Joao, could you help us with a top tip, for those watching today who are committing to remote work in the long term? What would you recommend for them?
Well, we have very different levels of those working in remote. We have those companies who are really prepared for remote because their offices and their companies were already engaged in this. And we have those who were forced into embrace this change because of the pandemic. And those are really different companies because and different scenarios, and we have to look into those. To those who are already natives to remote work, I would tell them to definitely look into how do you build a culture and all the things that you were mentioning before, but especially how do you onboard different people and how do you take care of them throughout the long term and guarantee that your vision and your perspective for the future of the company, especially in innovation, because it's what I do, are maintained and are fed from top down, but also having those ears really wide open from a bottom-up perspective, listening and active listening to the people. For those who embrace remote now because they were made to, and I see a lot of business who you would expect them to be more digital and they suddenly had to move remote and do all their operations online, I would suggest them to take the time and study and talk with other business people because there's a lot of people going through the same process as you, and there are things who work for businesses in your fields and your sectors that do not work for other businesses in different fields and sectors. So there's a lot of tools and technology in SaaS, such as the one that's Tap My Back, who can help you and make your teams more productively. And you might think that you have it all sorted out and you are ready for 2 or 3 more years of mixed situation for the future. But there's a lot of technology out there and you should definitely look into what haven't you tested, what haven't you tried, what else can help my company work better from project management to HR to ERPs, etc., etc.
Thank you, Joao. And Carla, what about you? Do you have any top tips for teams that are going to commit to remote working for the long term?
For teams? Okay, for teams. Well, I think the main tip is to communicate, to really communicate. You were saying that thing about if you see a colleague crying at a desk and you go to him and you try to understand what's going on. Remotely, we just shut the cameras off. And we do that quite often. And we text and there's no emotion there. So we have no idea what's going on with people and we really need to communicate. So that would be my first tip for teams would be open communication, create those spaces, those times for communicating, but informally. You cannot force anyone to talk to you about their day, talk to you about their emotions, how they're feeling. That needs to happen, naturally. You just don't, okay, so this is feeling time. That will not happen, okay? So communicating, and also making sure that everyone in your team has some sort of schedule in their work schedule for themselves, to take a break, to go out and see the day, see if it's raining, see if it's sunny, feel the wind in your face. So I think that is very important, but communication is really in the base of everything, I would say.
I love the idea that we're going to have 15 minutes of feeling time, just kind of like to concentrate on talking openly. It's an amazing concept. I think I saw the other day a template for how you should run meetings with informal discussion for the first 5 minutes and this kind of stuff. So I don't know if that works. Savita, what about you? Where do you stand on this stuff? What's a top tip for a team committing to remote for the long term?
Actually, you know what, Carla, to what you said, most of our leadership meetings every Monday start with, how are you feeling? And we dedicate nearly like half an hour just to talk about how we're feeling. And I do that even consciously with my team. I think the biggest, downside of remote working is conversations can get very task-driven and task-oriented. And Girish Mathrubootham, our CEO, always says, things will get done. The most important thing is to make sure that your employee is connected to the organization and has the assurance that they are cared for. So as much as I'm a result-oriented person myself, I've taken this conscious move that, I would ask my employees how they are feeling rather than what are the 10 things that need to be done during the day. It's a shift in the mindset, but it pays off in the long run. So I would say check-ins is very, very important. Self-discipline is very important. And I'm a big fan of The Power of Vulnerability by Brené Brown. I think as much as, we expect an environment to embrace us in the most turbulent times, each of us have to take ownership to show our bare nakedness. If you're not feeling, too good about things, have the backbone to talk about it, and you'll be surprised. What's the kind of support that you would get, even though you are socially, physically distant, you will still be, have a sense of connection. So that's my learnings from my experiences to it.
Amazing. I think I would add to that as well, that if you're on a call where somebody wants to share those kind of feelings, one of the most important things when somebody reaches out is to make sure you respond and don't dismiss or take it away, because that moment where they've asked for help is very important. But thank you both for sharing those. I think that's amazing. So Sylvia, close us out on a top tip for teams committing to remote working in the long term. And I think we may be getting about time for questions.
Sure. Very quickly then, I just follow up on what you were saying, and I think another top tip is listening and be present, again, with all your full conscience, so not checking the email, not checking the phone while talking, because we are already multitasking, and then on the computer, well, that's going way out of control, right? But giving full attention. That's pretty much what I mean when I say that people exchange feedback, and they don't simply give a feedback just related and narrowly focused on performance.
Thank you, Sylvia.
Sorry for the noise.
No problem. We're real people with real lives and real situations. Don't worry.
But it gave me the time, so I close it there to the fact that feedback is mostly an exchange, and it's not just a one-way communication, something that I tell somebody else regarding how they did, but it can be asked, it can be sought, it can be given if people are really responsive and listening, and it is focusing on a kind of problem solving. So sometimes just people need to figure out together how to address issues at work, issues at the interface of work and family. So I think the best that we can do is being present.
Thank you very much. So we have a few questions here that I just see in the chat. Right, first question. I opened up the door with the faith thing. So speaking about faith and commitment, are there any ways or efforts that we can do to boost motivation, to build more trust? And I guess I would ask Carla that question if you've got an answer for that one.
To build more trust and to boost motivation. Is that it?
Yeah, you can't do trust falls, right? When you're on a Zoom call, it doesn't work. So
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. So, I would take what Savita and Sylvia said, and I would that individual element of empathy, really, to pay attention to other people,
Okay.
That's, yeah. So I think it begins there.
Paying attention to people.
Yeah, actually paying attention to people, not just like you were saying, not dismiss them. Oh, yeah, that's right. No. What's underneath that? You know your colleagues, your people, that if, I don't know, if someone that never shows up late to a meeting suddenly is showing up late, like over and over again, maybe something is wrong. So take what you know and act on it. Don't just keep the knowledge, don't just, follow your feelings, go after what you're feeling and ask.
Thank you, Carla. So I have a question for Joao. Joao, next time we meet for coffee, I want to know, are we all going to bring little squares with us where we sit there so that we can look through at each other and get used to the fact that we're in real life but have a border? How's it going to be when we meet face to face again?
Well, you and me, Stuart, I hope in Lisbon, not in London, sorry for this, but I hope in Lisbon at least for the sun and for the coffee at least. Well, I think that the future is up to us. We're designing the future nowadays, and we're not designing it. It's not, although I support a lot of the use of technology and for making it easier for us in the future, but in fact, it's up to us. We're designing it, and if we and our teams want all to move remote and live in the countryside and work on screens and stuff, we can get the other side of living in nature and sharing and living in communities of people who have high skilled and closer to the level. On the other hand, if we want to go back to what is the society of the cities and live back to work, it's up to us. It's up to the organizations. But here is where I think that leaders will make a difference. We saw what happened in Apple. We saw what happened in Google, and people do not want to go back exactly to what we had in the past. People will look for a different relationship with the office, with the everyday life, and people learn how to value a little bit of the independence and autonomy of their work. But there are a lot of people who also like and enjoy to have an office, to have a place where they can interact with their colleagues and work by the side of like-minded people. So to answer honestly to you, I hope we have a coffee. If you want to bring your square, you can bring, and we'll find out together what the future holds for us, because it's up to the leaders and their teams to decide what's the future for each one of them.
Thank you, Joao. Thank you. So I'd like to turn to Savita, if I may, and just build on some of the answers that you mentioned earlier. So one of the questions here is, how do you manage burnout, within an organization? And I guess really kind of speaking to your point, you check in with somebody at the beginning of a call and you say, how are you? And they say, I'm awful. I'm having a dreadful time. Like, how do you manage that kind of stuff?
I really think it's all about, coming back to basics in terms of, understanding human emotion, feeling a sense of connection and safety to reveal what you're going through, and enabling that person to move from point A to point B. So a lot of times I think, only when things get really bad, sometimes people want to talk about it because it's totally unmanageable and then it's a burnout. But it's important to be conscious through, this change of setup on what is the impact it has had on you, and share that experience with your immediate manager or your leader so they know exactly what you're going through. But having said that, let's say if, we're all human, we go through different bouts of being conscious and being unconscious in the speed of life. And I would say if it does come to a burnout, then at least at Freshworks, we've been very open and we have said that take the time that you need. To be very frank, Stuart, I was in the epicenter in India where people were dying, every day in. I've lost about 5 people, being in India to the pandemic. And one of the things that I'm very grateful for an organization like this is I can be vulnerable and I can, share what I am going through in a very open way. So if you are going to build a culture where it is not right or wrong to share your emotions, it's just human, and you know that the response that you would get in turn is, out of empathy, you're going to feel safe. So I would say that this is a critical aspect before, all of us, get to the worst of the remote working, which is the burnout stage. Instead, we should be communicating more about how we are feeling, ensuring that we're more connected. And absolutely, I would agree that there's nothing that can substitute, a FaceTime, a going out, being in the nature. So bits of everything is needed. For example, I joined the company at the peak of a pandemic, and I'd met all the leaders just once. And I was the HR leader driving, Europe and UK. So that one meeting, that one day of offsite actually helped me in terms of taking me through for a year. So, you cannot replace face connections with completely remote. I think it's the blend that's required. And in the future of workplace strategy could be, you need to identify roles that has to be completely local. Roles that has to do blend roles and roles that can be remote, and give the liberty and flexibility to the employee to choose what fits them best.
Thank you, Savita. Amazing insights. Thank you. And Sylvia, we have a great question in the chat here around personal preferences when we come back into more normal situations. What will be your personal preference? Will it be to be straight back in the office full time? Will it be a hybrid thing? Will it be stick fully remote? How do you want your life to be?
Right. Well, considering my job as a university professor, I always had this flexibility to work whenever I wanted from home or from the office, except, of course, when I was teaching. And regarding teaching, I certainly would not bargain the physically present teaching with the online one. That's my personal preference. I'm not saying that it's not effective, and there has been fantastic advancements in online education, but it's just the connection that you can develop by being in the same room is different. So personally, for teaching at least, I certainly prefer the classroom. For research, I continue with my very privileged situation to work remotely whenever I want.
Thank you, Sylvia. What about you, Carla? Where do you want to take your life when things are more normal again? Will you be 100% remote? Will you be 100% in person?
Well, I think I will be a lot more in person, because being clinical psychologist, you do need that in-person element. It's very needed to create a relation between people. However, I do have a lot of clients that are scattered around the world, so there will also be a very big part of my job that will still be done remotely. So I think in my situation, I'm okay with the hybrid. Yeah.
There's a lot of non-verbal cues you don't get from remote working, right?
Oh, okay. Yes and no. Yes and no. Okay. For me, at this point, I would say that I don't want to sound presumptuous, but I get most of them, I would like to think, because most of my clients, we started in person, even though I have a few that started online. But the conversations when you are in therapy, it's very intimate. And you learn a lot about the person just by observing, just by listening. You know what they mean when they look to that side. You know what they mean when they look down. You know what they mean when they are late, like I was saying before. So you know what they mean when they, are doing this in the chair, if they are too close to the screen, if they are trying to get away from the screen. It's not that different than in person, but you do need the training for that, and you do need to be aware of that. And in real life, in my real life, when I'm not working, I don't have that little switch turned on. It's off. But when I'm working, I have it already on. So my answer would be yes, but also no if you have the training and you train for that.
It's kind of you to tell us that the switch will be off when we all meet for coffee rather than this remote panel. Thank you for that. And what about you, Joao? Will you prefer to be more in person or more remote with your future stuff? And I guess for you, you're not traveling around so much with this National Incubator Network, right? Or Innovation Network.
I would say exactly the opposite because I moved places. I went from Startup Portugal to the National Agency of Innovation. I'm now going around the country. So I've been, I don't know, first 2 months we did about 15,000 kilometers visiting all these innovation labs and new innovation transfer centers. So yes, I've been having a lot of what I wished I had throughout the last year and a half, which is in contact with person. I do believe that you need to have all the measures to do that safely and within the COVID parameters and so on and so on. But I believe in a society where you meet the people. You can work remotely with people from all over the world. You can have teams everywhere, but you still need human contact, and you still need, for the important moments of either strategy or recognition of people or having team building and building culture, that works way better if you do it in person. So Stu, I look forward to the next year and the next moments to have a lot of interactions throughout online that save us time and save the environment, but simultaneously having the opportunity to meet and visit and interact in person with a lot of the people.
Thank you, Joao. So, Savita, I was going to ask you the same question, but I wonder, can you help me understand, if somebody in front of you is not feeling so great, how do we give them a hug through the medium of Zoom? How does that work?
It's really difficult. In fact, when we did a survey saying, what's the first thing you want to do when we all meet? And there was one big word in Mentimeter, it was hug. So, that's irreplaceable, Stuart, I would say. But, words, the sense of, you're there for the other person when they're going through, different turbulent times, or even if it's a day where monotony has set in, that can help in terms of creating that I'm there for you feeling.
Yes, I was thinking the other day about our Canopy demo nights, and one of the first things we do, we get like 100 people in a room, they're all there to see startups. First thing we do is get everybody to stand up, introduce themselves to each other, and give a stranger a hug. And I was thinking, well, we haven't done that for a year and a half. I wonder if there's going to be a point soon where that's going to be possible. But for now, we'll probably skip it. So, Carla, there are many questions in the thread for you today. I'm sorry, I don't think anybody's picking on you. You've just sparked a few lights here. So there's a question for you, and with your professional training, are there any frameworks or guidelines that you would suggest for employee engagement?
Okay, so other than the ones that were already said throughout our conversation,
yeah, I guess
which I think are very important already. We've said a lot important. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
Sort of, I'm guessing from or inferring from the question, it's more kind of like named frameworks and things maybe they could go and research afterwards.
Okay, so frameworks. Let's see. Employee engagement. Okay, employees are what? Are people, right? So let's stop talking about that. Let's talk about people engagement. We need to engage with each other, right? We need to connect. We need to know each other. We need to know where are we talking from? Where do we live? What do we like? Do we live alone? Do we live with children? Can we, are we people? Are we shy? Are we extroverts? We need to know this so that we can engage. Before we engage as employees, we need to engage as people, I think. I don't know if I answered. I don't know if this was the answer that we were looking for.
I don't know either. It wasn't my question, but it was a great answer. Thank you for that. Sylvie, do you have anything you want to add on top of that around frameworks?
Well, there is one theory that sees engagement as a composite of energy, of vigor, of dedication, right, at work, which is great. And I guess this is one traditional, probably, framework that one can refer to. But then, as Carla was saying, perhaps we can, thanks to this opportunity, because the pandemic was a threat, but it was also a great opportunity to change how we view things and how we act on many respects. So perhaps we can enlarge that and go beyond a narrowly focused view on producing, right? And speak more about aligning with the values of a company, sharing with other people, so engaging into a joint endeavor, which goes beyond, the traditional even, let me say, capitalistic mentality, but into something that really brings us together as a collective, right? And this was the challenge that the pandemic brought, which I hope we will be able still to address, not to be on a pessimistic note, but of course, as one very influential management scholar, Peter Drucker, used to say, the most dangerous thing during a turbulence is not the turbulence in itself, but to try to face it or to cope with it with yesterday's mentality. Okay, so with everything that you were doing before the turbulence. The situation has changed, so we need to change also how we view things. And this is where the opportunity lies, I think.
I think you start to open a door to a very interesting topic with these values conversations and things like morals and ethics that what's the question on values for me is what are your values when nobody's looking? And I think the remote world gives a very interesting perspective because there's an awful lot of time where nobody can see what's going on. So were your values the same today as they were 6 months ago or 18 months ago? Not you personally, Sylvia. I'm sure your values are completely the same. But Savita, great question in the chat here. Do you see any compensation changes in the remote environment? Are people going to get paid less because they work remotely?
In fact, I think on the contrary, companies have started investing on, how could they enable work from home accessories? How could they enable internet allowance? So at Freshworks, we've made a conscious decision to give these allowances, which are benefits to employees that can help them, be comfortable while they're working from home. Compensation bands are always a reflection of the country that you're in, the city that you're in. So whether you're remote or whether you are, in a physical location, compensation bands are still the same. But I think the kind of benefits that you would give does change with remote working.
And are these things that you talk about, are they taxed by the government when you provide, say, broadband access for an employee? Do they pay tax on that, or does the company pay tax on that?
In some countries, yes, it is taxed. And in some other countries, the taxation is lower. So you've got to be in Luxembourg if you don't need to be taxed too much. Otherwise, if you're in Germany, you're surely taxed a lot on these. But we're also giving, for example, we gave €1,000 learning allowance for a year per employee that they could use to learn anything that they want, be it reading, be it enrolling for different courses or having a coach. So there is time, right? I mean, the time that you would take to commute, is literally free now. And what could you use that time for? Could you use that to invest back in yourself? So these are some benefits that we've really taken a look at our benefits, and we've done a landscape shift. When we actually went to the market to see what are the other SaaS companies doing, and we went to compensation vendors for the same, it was very hard to get data. So we listened to what our employees' needs were, and we tailor-made our benefits to suit the employees' needs. And it's a continual journey. We have a V2 today. I'm sure we're going to have a V3 or a V5 in the next couple of years.
Amazing. And the commute thing's very interesting. Carla and I laughed about this when we were preparing for the session. I actually give myself a fake commute on some days where I go out for a walk around and come back to the house. And I use that time like the commute used to be used, which is to listen to podcasts or to think about things, because you miss that separation. But yes, I con myself into believing I've got a bit of space by going for a circular walk. João, what do you think? In Portugal, are you seeing anything different about compensation now the world is so remote for such a long time?
an underlying change happening in the field of work. It was already happening. It's nothing that happened suddenly because of COVID, because of people moving home. It's related to digital nomads and to people looking for skills and not nationalities, looking for quality people instead of locations. And so you see a pool of companies actually sourcing out their resources and their teams throughout the globe, and that has an impact on how much you earn and where you're paid from. So I've been seeing people in Portugal being hired from different locations, and I've been seeing companies in Portugal hiring also from different locations. I do not have the data, but Stuart, I do believe that this is going to level somewhere, and people are going to be more in charge, and at the end of the day, people will actually earn more because it becomes a more competitive global market for the top level skills and for the right skills, for specific skills. So I do believe that a change, not suddenly, not drastically, but a change in compensation will come throughout the next years and the way we distribute wealthness throughout the skilled people for our sectors and areas. What do you think?
I don't think it's any coincidence that the 5th Portuguese unicorn deals with this kind of thing and compensation around the world, right? So we're kind of coming to the end of our Q&A time, and I'd just like to check in with each of the panelists for any last thoughts from each of you. So Sylvia, if I might ask you first, and then Savita, Joao, and we'll finish with Carla, if that's okay.
I think just one last maybe reflection on the fact that whatever the future will bring in terms of physical, remote kind of working, what type of organization we will set up, I think it's important to keep in mind that some adjustments will be needed to meet these individual needs that I was referring to, that regardless of the in-presence of remote working, people always need to feel confident in what they do. So receiving feedback, for example, helps in feeling mastering. They need to fulfill their need for belonging. So even if online, as Savita said, we are not distant, we are only geographically distant, but socially we are a group. And then again, in terms of autonomy, that's very important. And I think this should be stressed again one more, because moving to work from home for some has also this advantage that they feel more in charge, right, of a complete piece of work, which wasn't exactly the case for all the workers, right? So here we had probably, the kind of the exception in the upper scale, but not all companies were ready to really entrust people with an entire process of work and just work by goals. So I think that's very important, and this is something good that we can bring with us after the pandemic is over.
Thank you, Sylvia, and thank you for being here today. Amazing to have you on the panel. Thank you.
Thank you.
Savita, last thoughts from you?
My last thoughts are, take the responsibility for yourself, in understanding what you need from your environment. Whether that is an emotional need, whether that is a need, to enable you to do your work together, whether it is connection, articulate that need and ensure that you get that from your environment. Even if your environment is not enabling, when you speak up, then you become that change agent to make that environment better. So I think taking that self-responsibility for yourself and implementing that self-discipline is extremely important.
Thank you, Savita. Amazing to have you on the panel as well today.
Thank you.
Huge respect for your insights. Thank you. Joao, the final thoughts from you, my friend.
I would say that embrace this. Don't wait for the pandemic to end. There is a new normal, and we don't know what will be, but it will be some version of what we're living. So if you're waiting for what comes next, you shouldn't. You should actually take this and embrace the change. We don't know how much time it will be, and we don't know what will be on the other end. It won't be definitely what we had before. So look to your teams, look to your organization, look to the technology, look to the different things around you that are the things either as an employer or as an employee, and adapt, embrace the change, because it will be with us for a long, long time before we settle down on something else. So I would say it's hopeful. We will design it. The future, it's designed by us. It doesn't design itself. So embrace it and help design the future. I would say that's it.
Thank you, Charles. I just got to pick out a coffee shop for the next meetup. I'm looking forward to that. I will bring my square. Lovely to have you on the panel today. And Carla, take us home. What's your final thoughts for the panel today?
Okay, so being the last, it's quite easy for me to end. So I would take everything that was said before, everyone's final thoughts, and I would add balance it out. You know, balance it out. Just try to balance all of this. Try to balance yourself, all the roles that you have in your life, with your work role as well. Try to even them out. And don't forget that balance is not a quick fix. It's not a one size fits all. Okay, it's not just adding water and there you have it, balance. No, it's trial and error, is trying, is going, is learning from experience, is learning from mistakes. So don't be afraid to try. Don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to talk out loud and balance it out.
Brilliant. Thank you, Carla. And thanks so much for bringing your perspectives to today and for giving me quite a few laughs on our preparation as well. I really appreciated the vibe for that. So I guess I should say thank you also to Tap My Back for the ability to bring this amazing panel together today, and handing back to Gabriela.
Thanks so much, Stuart. You know, that was an incredible roundtable, and I think there are a few points I would like to highlight. Primarily, it begins with us, because we are a mirror to others, and the more that we can be empathetic with ourselves, the more we can be compassionate and lead through our own innovation and vulnerability, the more our team will follow suit. Today, we have Tap My Back as a great application to explore that, to use for innovation, and to use as insight to help both of our employees, our clients, and our customers. With that said, I want to welcome everyone from around the world. We checked our statistics, and we know that we have people covering the entire planet joining us today. We have Nigeria, the Ukraine, Brazil, Portugal, the US, China, India, and many more. Welcome, and thank you for taking the time and effort to be with us today. We hope these insights have helped you. Now, we have a very special moment to introduce our keynote speaker, Michael Kier. Now, I'm going to take a moment to read, so bear with me because this biography is lengthy and impressive. So, Michael Kier is a Canadian Hall of Fame speaker who travels around the world researching, writing, and speaking about inspiring workplace cultures that drive outrageous results. His inspiring workplace blog has been listed as one of the top 30 workplace blogs around the world. Michael is also the author of 8 books, including The Humor Advantage, Why Some Businesses Are Laughing All the Way to the Bank, Hire, Inspire, and Fuel Their Fire, and The Jerk-Free Workplace, How You Can Take the Lead to Create Happier, More Inspiring Workplaces. Michael Kier has presented a video to us, and I encourage you to sit with us today and listen.
Oh, I love my job.
It's Monday! Monday morning! Yes! 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 It's Monday! It's Monday! Yes! I can't wait to go to work! I'm going to work! Yes, I'm going to work!
Yes! I'm at work!
I don't know about you, but I really want to learn how to wake up like that in the morning. So, without further ado, Michael Kier, and ladies and gentlemen, let's hear how we can bring humor to our workplace to increase employee engagement. Michael?
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. It is fabulous to be here. Let me ask you this. How is everyone doing on a scale of 9 to 10? How excited are you to be here on a scale of 9 to 10? I'm about a 9.8. I'm giving me a little room to improve, depending, I guess, on how I do. So I want to ask you a question. I'm not just going to be talking about humor. I'm talking about some things that we need to do to hit the reset button after this crazy year and a half. But I do want to start and end talking a little bit about humor. So I have a question for you that I've had the pleasure of asking audiences all over the world. And that question is this: how many of you would like to go back to your jobs, whether it's working remotely or hybrid or with the gang all back together, knowing that for you to be even more successful, more effective, you should be having way more of this? How many of you would like to have more of this every day? And how many of you would like to end one of those crazy bad hair days that we all are allowed to have, knowing that even on those days, you could still manage to leap through the front door of your house and yell out, "Honey, I'm home." This is, of course, the international symbol for having fun. It's the international symbol for putting humor to work. And you see, I've had the pleasure of traveling all over the world in normal times, researching, writing, and speaking about inspiring leaders, inspiring cultures. And one of the things that they so often have in common is they embrace a spirit of fun. They strategically put humor to work to laugh all the way to the bank, to build more resilient teams and cultures at an individual, team, and organization level. Now, let me be clear. When I talk about bringing your sense of humor along for the ride, I am not talking about telling jokes or being a comedian. I'm not even talking about being funny all the time. I'm talking about doing things in a spirit of fun, about just being more real and more human and more genuine. It's about laughing at those things we have no control over, which is quite a bit these days. And it's about laughing at ourselves, especially. Is it not a truism, after all, that the more seriously a person takes themselves, the less seriously we all tend to take that person? Which is a little bit, ironic, because people take themselves seriously in the hopes that everyone takes them seriously. And the reality becomes, we're not taking you seriously because you're taking yourself so seriously. And I want to start here because I think more than ever in our lives, we need to be extra intentional about bringing our sense of humor along for the ride. This has been a challenging year and a half for people. So it's totally understandable if many of your employees, if many of you even sitting in here have woken up some days looking a little something like this, where you don't exactly do the fun dance naked in front of the mirror in the morning, where you're maybe so stressed out you don't even bother to shower. You're so stressed out. You just give yourself a wet sponge bath using a few damp pieces of tissue. And then you go out into your kitchen and you start a caffeine IV drip in the kitchen because that's the only way you're going to get through the day is with loads of caffeine. And then you're just so stressed out that you just kind of want to vote yourself off the old Survivor Island because it's just not fun anymore. So we need to be extra intentional, especially as leaders. We need to be extra intentional about bringing our own sense of humor along for the ride. We need to be extra intentional about infusing our workplaces with humor. And before I go any further, I'm going to fix my hair. Look at this. Look at this thing. People sometimes ask me if this is a toupee. And I started to get offended because I thought to myself, if I had a toupee, why would I have one that looks like this? Now, talk amongst yourselves. I'll be right there. This really is, though, our sense of humor, our sense of this. One of the most underappreciated resources we have to build a better workplace. We know from research at an individual level that people who share a healthy sense of humor tend to be trusted more. We like them more. It's not rocket science. We want to work with people who have a healthy sense of humor. It can help us be more resilient, more creative, and help us communicate with people. Leaders who have a healthy sense of humor, it has been shown that there's a easy for me to say, statistical correlation between leaders who have a healthy sense of humor and employees staying longer in their workplaces. Teams that have a healthy sense of humor tend to be more open and honest and collaborative, and organizations that bring this into their culture tend to have higher employee retention rates, lower employee turnover rates. In fact, it truly is one of the most underappreciated resources to help us build a truly inspiring, want-to kind of workplace culture. And as you've been hearing this morning so much already, culture is everything. Culture is your number one driver of success. It's about how you do the things you do, the unique set of rituals, traditions, values, behaviors that make you, you, and different than everybody else. In fact, here's a question I would challenge you with as we hit the reset button. What is your unique cultural advantage that separates you from your closest competitors? Because we know culture drives success. It's about having an inspiring sense of purpose, and engaging our employees with an inspiring sense of purpose has never been more important. We know it's one of the top motivational influences there is. And I do hour-long talks just on this topic, but here's a little nugget for you. If you want to grow a better culture and at the same time give your employees a stronger sense of purpose, this is a 2-for-1 deal here. Make sure employees understand that their job isn't just to do their job. It isn't just to do the technical aspects of their job or to wow the customers. Their job is to contribute to a positive, inspiring workplace culture where everyone wants to work, where everyone wants to go on a Monday morning. And of course, strong cultures are all about, and this was mentioned on the panel, values, right? Because everybody has those nice, inspiring values. And sometimes we put them on the posters or the coffee mugs. And then you get your team together, maybe, and you hold hands and you sing "We Are the World" because your values make you feel so good. But here's what we have to remember. Actions speak louder than words, and talk is cheap. Think about this for a moment. Who is going to disagree with any of your wonderful values that you have? Who's going to disagree with a value like teamwork? You know, we believe in teamwork. Well, who doesn't? Do you think anybody is going to hire on with your company and say during the job interview, "I want you to know I'm not a team player"? So what great organizations do is they make sure those values actually mean something. They translate them, they interpret them into meaningful behaviors and attitudes that they can measure. They turn it into stories. They turn it into compelling stories so employees understand the cultural norms. They understand what the unwritten rules are. And when you have a strong culture, it makes all the difference in the world. It's your number one competitive advantage. Somebody down here can maybe pay your employees a little more. Somebody down here can maybe undercut you on price with your services, your products. You're never going to win that race. And sometimes you can't do much to control those things. What you can control is your culture. And that's what great leaders, that's what great organizations get, is that great cultures don't just happen. You can't fake it. You can't go buy your culture at IKEA because nobody would understand the instructions. So you have to be intentional about your culture. And to me, that's the key word, intentional about your culture, which means you have to hire with your culture in mind. You have to communicate passionately, relentlessly about your cultural norms. You have to make sure when you're making decisions, that every decision you make, you ask yourself this question: how does this affect our culture, and how does it reflect our culture? You have to be intentional more than ever now. We know from so much research that during turbulent times, like 9/11, the 2008 financial crisis, those organizations that have really strong cultures rebounded back faster and higher than other companies because of their culture. I've talked to clients around the world about this shift to remote work or hybrid work. And those companies that already had a strong culture in place again, they said to me time and time again, it was very little challenge for us because we had the fundamentals in place. Our employees understand our values, our norms, our culture. So it doesn't matter where employees work. It doesn't matter what model you end up with, as long as you have that strong culture in place. And I forget who said it on the panel, but we have been given a gift here, an opportunity when it comes to our culture in two different ways. First of all, I think the pandemic has been a great reminder of what really matters in life. It's been the gift of appreciation. So as we go back out of this pandemic, let's bring those lessons with us. Ask your employees, in fact, what did they learn throughout the pandemic? And what did they learn in terms of appreciation? And can we bring that back into the workplace? We've learned in the last year and a half, I think, the importance of our health, our mental and physical health. We've learned how important relationships are, our families are. So let's keep that in mind when we go back and intentionally build a better culture. Let's make sure those are at the top of the chain when it comes to building a great culture. And the second way we've been given a gift is we've been given the gift of perspective to kind of take a step back and rethink our culture. So rather than going back to the norm or the normal, because let's be honest, the normal wasn't working for a lot of people. There was a lot of people that were burning out in the old days before the pandemic, that were stressed out, that were not happy, that were not engaged in their jobs. So instead of going back to the old normal or even a new normal, hey, why don't we think of it as hitting the reset button? And let's reimagine a more inspiring workplace. Let's reimagine a workplace that works for everyone. Let's reimagine things we can do with our customers and clients that are going to truly knock their socks off. Let's reimagine a workplace that puts humanity and people and the health of our people first and foremost. So I've got 3 keys to help you do just that. And the first one, and the panel was talking about this a lot, is being intentional about communication. Communication is everything. I was doing research on workplaces in beautiful Stockholm, Sweden a few years ago, and I stumbled upon the Vasa Warship Museum. Beautiful wooden warship. The ship is bigger than this. It's a huge wooden ship that set sail in the 1620s. And there was a ceremonial launch for this big, beautiful wooden warship. So people are down on the beach in Stockholm, and they watch this ship go out into the harbor, and in sight of everyone, the ship sinks. And 30 people tragically lost their lives. Now, the weird part of this story is the captain of the ship knew that the ship was probably going to sink. Some of the crew members knew, yet they still went out there. Why? Because nobody had the guts, nobody had the courage to speak up to the King of Sweden, who had personally signed off on the design of the ship, was pushing them out to get it out before they were ready. Nobody had the guts to speak truth to power and say to the king, Your Highness, this ship isn't going anywhere. And this happens in our workplaces today. 2 Harvard professors coined the phrase organizational silence to talk about the phenomenon of employees not feeling comfortable speaking up with tough questions or their concerns, seeing a safety or a production issue and not saying anything because they're scared. In fact, one massive study found that 80% of employees, 80%, said they didn't speak up over a serious issue at work because there wasn't that psychological safety in place. And if we need to work on anything as we hit the reset button, it's creating that psychological safety, which humor can help with, and communication certainly helps with. So we have to remember communication is an investment. We know from studies that the level of open and transparent communication in a team is one of the single biggest driver of future results, future financial results. But it's not just what we say to each other, it's how we say things to each other. Are we being aware, especially as leaders, and even if we're speaking remotely over video, of our facial expressions, our tone of voice? Have you ever worked with somebody who never smiles, or been on a Zoom call with somebody who's like, for like 10 minutes, and you think, are you awake? You know, what's going on in there? So let's remember the importance of how we come across, our body language, our facial expression, our tone of voice. Are we giving feedback in a positive, constructive way and not being a seagull? Now, why do I say seagull? What do seagulls do to people sometimes? That's right, they crap all over us. So let's make sure we're not being seagulls at work, where we're just pointing out what's not working. This is stupid. You got one wrong. We don't have the time for this. It's against our policy. Now, I'm not talking about ignoring conflict. I just told you the sinking ship story, after all. But I'm talking about building that psychologically safe, positive work environment, humor-filled work environment, where people feel comfortable debating issues, focused on the issues, where people feel comfortable bringing up challenging questions and concerns and issues. So 3 broad tips within this communication basket. The first one being, let's make sure we create some simple communication guidelines. That's more important than ever. And a great question to guide this conversation, by the way, every now and then, just ask your teams this dirt simple question. What are some of your pet peeves when it comes to communication? What drives you batty when it comes to communication? When I do this in workshops, it's a long exercise because people have a long list. So it helps you just raise awareness of what might be bugging people and what you could do better, because often they're just little things we need to work on. But create some guidelines, especially for the hybrid work. You know, how do people prefer to be communicated with? Text, is text okay? Some people don't like text. Some people love it. Email, would you prefer I pick up the phone, video, or phone call? What works for you? Interpretive dance, can I do an interpretive dance to get my message across? Probably not the best idea. And set some guidelines too around expectations. We know that when employees send an email, for example, and they don't hear back, especially from their boss, that there's a psychological stressor in their brain that parks in their brain because they haven't heard back from their boss. So what is a realistic response rate? If I get an email from my boss on a Saturday, do I have to answer it on the weekend, or can it wait till Monday? And if you are a leader, because we know, and we talked about burnout in the panel, because we know a lot of employees are burning out working at home because they're actually working longer than ever before, some employees. It is important for senior leaders to visibly sign off from the technology, from the communication, to actually visibly communicate. Do a mic drop if you have to, but visibly communicate. Hey, I'm out of here, everyone, for the day. I've got a soccer game to get to with my kids. Have a great evening. I will not be online. See you tomorrow. Same thing for the weekend. So set some guidelines. Set some guidelines around video meetings. Yeah, I know we've been doing this for a long time, but evidently some people are still having challenges. I just read about somebody who actually started clipping their toenails during a customer Zoom meeting. So, you know, let's set some fun guidelines, some fun tips, include some serious tips that are going to help people communicate more professionally doing video meetings, but incorporate some fun ones. Like if your pet walks by, introduce your pet, because we all want to know your pet's name. Or put a do not disturb sign on your home office door to make sure your naked brother-in-law doesn't walk in during your Zoom meeting. So make it fun. Second thing we need to do with communication is we need to relentlessly make sure we are intentionally checking in with our employees. A study from Deloitte found that one of the simplest, most effective ways employees gain a sense of belonging at work is just when somebody checks in with them. Now, there's a difference between checking in on somebody and checking up on somebody. Checking up on somebody kills trust. Checking in on somebody builds trust. So make sure you're not spying on your employees, that you're checking in to see if they're at their desk at 10 o'clock on a Monday morning. You need to be sincere, and you need to build trust by genuinely checking in. And all sorts of research shows that when supervisors, when bosses check in on a regular basis, doesn't have to be long, 5-minute, 10-minute conversation, one-on-one, that those employees have a far greater sense of connection to their workplace. They are far more engaged. The numbers go through the roof. So let's check in, but let's check in with intent. Here are some simple questions you can ask. What can I do to support you? But not just what can I do to support you, what does support look like? Because everyone has a different idea, a different level of support that they will need. So ask that question. Another great question to ask is just, hey, what's been, Miguel, what's been working well for you? And what hasn't been working well? And that's a really soft way to get people to open up about some of their frustrations. And a really great question for leaders to ask is there anything I can stop doing or anything I should start doing that would make this whole situation easier for you, more effective for you? And then the third thing with communication that we need to do is we need to make sure we're not just communicating at our employees, but we're communicating genuinely with our employees, that we're creating open conversation, that psychologically safe space for people to speak up, that it's a two-way street. When I do videos about how employees don't feel they have a voice at work, it is the single topic that I get the biggest response to, because employees feel so frustrated that they don't have a voice. And great organizations intentionally make sure they give opportunities for their employees to have a voice. I know one company where they do munch and learns, where they have snacks, they have coffee, and the management team is there, but there's no agenda. Employees just get to ask any question they want of their management team. Let's create those opportunities. Maybe it's creating Zoom scheduled hours. Maybe it's doing something, and I'm a huge fan of this, like Feedback Fridays, where every Friday you send out just a simple survey question to just check the pulse. It has become so important, especially these days, to check the pulse of your employees on a regular basis. What are they thinking? What are they feeling? So check the pulse. A simple survey question every Friday, just to see how they're doing. Some of them could be serious, some of them could be fun. But make sure you're intentional about communication. The second big thing we have to work on, and again, the panel was talking about this, you've been talking about this morning, is the importance of recognition. We have to make sure we are extra intentional about building a culture where everybody is celebrating milestones, celebrating success, passing the praise, patting each other on the back. And sometimes it doesn't even take a pat on the back. Sometimes it's just a tap on the back. That's all it takes. See what I did there? It's just a tap on the back, but we have to make sure we're doing it. And doing it from a culture-wide perspective, because we know from studies that when our peers give us feedback, it's even more powerful than we get it from above, than when we get it from our leadership team. So let's make sure we are recognizing employees, and let's adapt to the new reality. So let's make it fun. Let's bring some of this back in and create some fun awards, some fun recognition awards for people. Maybe a bridge builder award to whoever best builds a bridge between people working in your office and people working remotely, or people working in all sorts of satellite offices. Maybe a virtual that's my rock star impersonation. A virtual rock star award to reward somebody who's just rocked this virtual thing. A Houdini award for somebody who magically made a big problem disappear. So let's create some fun rewards, and then let's make sure we're not just connecting with the technology, but also physically sending employees something in the mail has so much more power when everything has moved online, even if it's just a handwritten thank you card, or sending them something fun in the mail. I've sent out these, for example, as gifts to some of my clients. You're on mute coffee mugs, what everybody needs working in the remote hybrid workplace these days. And let's take advantage of the technology. Remember, we can think outside the organization box. We can include family members now a lot easier if we're honoring somebody. We can include people from all over the world with platforms like this, and take advantage of the technology that is out there to make sure it is simple and it is fun to tap each other on the back every day, day in and day out, because we know it pays off big time. And then the last thing, again, I want to circle back to is we have to make sure we are bringing this like never before. I do full day workshops just on this topic. Here's a couple of minutes, Reader's Digest version. Remember that humor is one of the most powerful stress busters available to us to help us be more resilient. It helps us change our thinking about challenging problems, it shifts our emotion, and it helps us physically. When you laugh, You increase oxygen flow going to the brain, which is highly recommended. Good laughter works faster to relax our bodies so powerfully. And according to Dr. William Fry, 20 or 30 seconds of good hearty laughter is the same physical workout as 2 minutes on a rowing machine. So let's remember, we're to bring more laughter and humor into our workplaces because it is good for us and it is a powerful stress buster. Let's make sure we're bringing it into our meetings. I want to suggest that if your meetings are not fun, you're doing them wrong. Meetings are an important touch point for your culture. Your meetings are a place where you can help build your culture, but also reflect your culture. So make sure they're fun. A Scientific America study even found that the more fun, the more humor, the more bantering in meetings, the more successful the meetings. People were more open and honest, and they are more innovative because ha plus ha equals up. This is not a chef's hat or a pope's. It's supposed to be a giant light bulb. So people have more light bulbs when you bring more humor into the meeting. So kick off your meeting in a fun way. Get everybody up and do the fun dance, for 1 minute, or go around the room and have everybody say how they're doing on a scale of 1 to 10. Dirt simple. Pass an imaginary energy ball around the table. Open with a fun question. Just do something. Have everybody wear a "hello, my name is" name tag. And you can do these virtually as well, where everybody just answers a fun question, or they have an alter ego name they use for the meeting. But it is so important to do that. And I'm going to give you a link to a resource that has over 100 ideas on adding humor into your meetings. And then finally, if we want to infuse our workplaces with humor, look for opportunities to create rituals and traditions. Those have never been more important, especially when people are working remotely and hybrid, because it gives people a sense of structure and a sense of continuity. It gives people something to look forward to and something to reminisce about. And it creates that strong sense of shared history and a stronger culture. There's no end of rituals and traditions that you can do. It might be something goofy to kick off your meetings with, or to end your meetings with. Maybe you end it with a giant gong. Maybe you just do something to just end it creatively. Maybe it's a ritual to kick off your work week in a fun, inspiring way on a Monday morning, or Friday afternoon huddle, where you share the top successes from the week. Rituals and traditions are so important, and there's so many serious ones you can do to build habits, but also fun ones to bring that humor into your workplace. For example, celebrating wacky theme days. I have one client, and you could do this, works remotely or when everyone's together. It's so goofy, but it's so simple. They do something called Third Person Thursdays, where everyone talks about themselves in the third person. In other words, everyone refers to themselves using their own name. Mike really likes this idea. Hey, Mike, I'll see you in the meeting later on. Hey, Mike has an idea. Like, how silly is that? But that's the kind of stuff that brings energy into our workplace and helps build a more rocking, inspiring workplace culture. So as you go back to hitting the reset button, reimagine a better workplace. Be extra intentional, more intentional than you ever were before about building a great culture that works for everyone. Be extra intentional about how you communicate. Be extra intentional about recognizing employees and tapping everyone on the back on a regular basis. And be extra intentional about bringing this along for the ride. As somebody once said, we can't take life too seriously because, well, we're not getting out of it alive. So let's remember to enjoy the journey as we build more rocking, inspiring, want-to kind of workplace cultures. And if there's anything that I can do to help you support your mission in building a greater workplace, please reach out. Thank you, Tap My Back, for doing this fabulous event. It has been an honor to be with you here today. I wish everybody success in their journey and a whole heck of a lot of this. Thank you.
Wow, Michael, that was amazing. And that's a lot to unpack. For any of you who are interested in gaining the insight that Michael provided us today, which was ample and numerous and fantastic, take the time to look at his video again, because there was a lot of solid practical advice that you can bring to your corporation and your organizations. He also has two amazing surprises for you. The first being that if you look in your email in the very near future, you'll find 2 downloadable books that he's providing for everyone who registered. If you did not register, simply email hello@tapmyback.com and he'll get you those books right away. Secondarily, are you by your computer? You better get close, because the very first person who emails hello@tapmyback.com with any information, I would suggest humor, you will receive the opportunity to partake in a free workshop with Michael for his Culture Leadership Academy. So right now, get to that email and email hello@tapmyback.com. This concludes my participation in this event, and I'm very honored to be part of this entire 2 hours with you. We learned a lot today. We learned about engagement and the ways in which we can engage our employees more passionately, compassionately, and intentionally. Please take the time to look at the video again when you have time to gain tons of insight, not only for our roundtable speakers, but from Michael himself. Vitor, thank you for allowing me to be part of this today and allow me to pass this baton on to you.
Thank you, Gabriela, and you are completely right. So you know, from the speakers, from the roundtable, also from Michael, also from the questions that we received and we passed to the roundtable, and thank you for that, for your attention, and for, you know, putting some more good questions into the table. I cannot recap all of these, all the important insights, all the important ideas for sure. I also have to watch again these events at least 1 or 2 times, because even if I work at Tap My Back, I still have to improve. Our team, our company still have to improve in communicating in the best way possible between peers, between teams, with my team, to give better feedback, not the feedback itself, but also the way to provide feedback, feeling the pulse of the company, and the speakers and Michael just now just provide me more insights about how I can improve doing that, and then also helping our customers to do in the same way, or at least passing that ideas to them so they can also adapt to their reality, to their culture, to their language, etc. So there are some things that with the pandemic won't change. Well, the run to the digital world with all the information, with quantity, with speed will not change. Maybe you can go back to your office, maybe, or you will be in a hybrid workplace, or you can stay also remote. And other people, don't forget, it's also important, people in the factories and other kind of services, they will still go to the factories like before, like during the pandemic. But it's also important to communicate with that kind of people, with that kind of workers, and also between them. So I guess that Tap My Back offers you know, a tool, a platform for different use cases, not only for remote, of course. There are some few highlights that I want to make, and you know, compared to the roundtable and also to what Michael said, it's just very few highlights that I took some notes. One interesting one, it was the difference between remote or working from home and smart. And smart is important, so you can achieve also another important idea that everybody talks about, but it's not so simple to execute, or maybe we sometimes postpone some ideas that we have, some frameworks, some comments that we receive, and we don't do it. That is the balance between life and work, of course. If we are not happy at home, we will not be happy at work. If we are not happy at work, we will not be happy at home as well, of course. And trust, empathy, commitment, I guess, you know, to be transparent in general. Be transparent with your colleagues, with other departments, if necessary, if you communicate with them as well. Be transparent at work, and that will create the trust, the commitment, and the empathy for sure. And one important thing, because this is usual, and I also saw this with clients, when you went to the office or when you go back to the office, it's easy to communicate and to provide feedback and maintain relationships with your colleagues. But remotely, well, set some time on your agenda to do that. Really, I do that, not only with my colleagues or my team, but also with friends. Nowadays, working remotely and living remotely, I look at my agenda and I know that I have to set some time to talk with people at work and also at home. We also talk about the compensation changes around the world. Maybe now with more acceleration because of the pandemic, but even before, as João Borga said, we already saw those moves. And you know, from Michael, I guess the fun, the humor that you should also introduce at your daily routine and at your job, because it doesn't mean that you are silly, okay? It just means that you are creating some environment in your team. So please do it. Don't do it too much, I think, but please also put that touch of humor in your daily routine. And also, I also heard from Michael that the pandemic is a great reminder about what really matters in life. I completely agree with that. So, Tap My Back and the next steps. Actually, in the last 2 quarters, we have listened to our customers, but also to some prospects, also to some past customers, through interviews, through our chat in our app, in our website, through reviews, through emails. So we received tons of requests for feature improvements or minor improvements as well. Some of them are already in the platform. We still have others for the roadmap. And so we don't only listen to the teammates, we also listen to customers, and we improve with that kind of communication. So if you are a customer and you have something else to say, please do every time you want. Our team is here to talk with you, also to learn with you, and then help other customers as well. Also, very important in this roadmap is to keep our platform simple. So we don't focus in bringing more features just because competitors do or something like that, but we want that recognition, employee recognition, feedback, and feeling the pulse of your team or organization is simple to set up a new account, simple to set up a new survey, and even more simple to answer through Tap My Back in your smartphone, in Microsoft Teams, in Slack, TalkDesk, and also with other integrations that we have. So our focus is to achieve complex stuff quickly and in a very simple but also fun way to do it. So that will be always our focus. So moving on, one last surprise in this event. If you are still not a customer of Tap My Back is also giving or awarding to new clients that attended this event $400 so per new subscription. So give it a try. You always have a trial available, but now if you register to this event, you also have $500 in credits to do so. Also, keep in mind that our partners, Freshworks, and also a big thank you to Freshworks with promotion and also to Savit, of course, to be here with us today. They also have perks for you. If you are a startup or a tech company, please look at our event page and you can find that information. And as we already saw, Michael Kerr is also offering ebooks, and for the first one, that's for sure already sent the email to Willow at Tap My Back, an entire course to that person. So please, all this information will be sent to you in the coming days by email, so don't stress, but if you have any question, let us know, of course. Also, the recording of this video, as I said, I have to watch it again, so you will also be able to watch again this event, or maybe just the parts that you are more interested in. Also, a big thank you to you that registered to this event, because per each registration we are giving or donating $2.50 to UNICEF, to the vaccination plan, of course, against COVID-19. So thank you for your registration. You are helping us, helping UNICEF and this vaccination plan, of course. I also have to, say thank you a couple more times. So to all the partners and of course the clients that were here with us today, providing their testimonials, a big thank you. So thank you, Fernanda Oliveira, Fernanda Paixão, Lawrence, Ricardo, and also the partners, Shriram from Freshworks and Walla from TalkDesk. And of course, a big thank you to all the clients, because it's because of them that we are here today. Not only the past clients, but also the future ones, and that help us grow and also providing this type of content. Of course, the roundtable and the keynote, I think it was incredible, and so thank you all for that as well. I'm leaving you, Gabriela, for the last part, okay? Don't cry. Also to our partners, Moss and Cooper, and also to Annie. And just to finish, so I would like to say that, again, it's very important to focus on the balance in our life and also in work, and to be transparent. I want to, again, highlight these points. And if you think that, Tap My Back can help somehow, at least in the work part, that then it will influentiate also your balance with your own personal life. Please contact us, reach us by email, chat, by the channel that you think is best, of course. So be happy, stay healthy as well in these difficult times still. And I hope that we can chat soon, or maybe, see you soon. Thank you one more time. And Gabriela, thank you.
Thank you.